Hello, New York Giants fans. Welcome back to the Empire State Sports Report. I'm your host, Adrianna, also known as New York Giants fangirl on social media. Today's episode is going to be a fun one because we are recapping the first 3 days of training camp. I was there all 3 days. I got to see it all with my own two eyes, and I got some good stuff to report. Plus, I have some clips for you guys that I can't wait to show you. We're going to get into that in a minute, but I just want to talk through basically some highlights and lowlights from the last couple of days so we can talk through some overviews. So let's start with the offense here, defense, and then special teams. So offense, the biggest thing that I think everyone needs to know is that Malik Neighbors is still an absolute freak, and that toe injury is healed and he looks good to go. So he spoke to the media and said, that they talked a little bit about surgery, and then Dable was like, I'm not getting into anyone's injury history or whether or not he's going to do surgery. No one knows, whatever. Neighbors seems like he's okay, and we'll see what happens. Although it does sound like surgery can maybe be an option down the line. Why they didn't do it this offseason, no one knows. Hopefully it doesn't become a long-term problem for him. So we're just going to act like he's fine because he's fine for right now. So he's had an unbelievable camp so far. He just has been electric. He's been everything we all remember, know, and love. Russell Wilson has thrown the most beautiful deep balls to him down the field. It's like a thing of beauty being able to watch a wide receiver actually have a quarterback who throws a great deep ball that's accurate, on time, and catchable right in his hands. So that's been really fun to watch. Some of the players who have been really heavily involved, obviously outside of Malik Neighbors, are Wan'Dale Robinson. I have seen him used all over the field. Obviously, we know him as a slot guy, but back in Kentucky, he was also used as a deep threat. And that's something that we've seen a little bit here, which I think if you're Russell Wilson, knowing that you have guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, Malik Neighbors, and Darius Slayton, who if you just throw the ball down the field, one of them is going to be there to catch it. Malik Neighbors is your best option, but Wan'Dale has made some really, really beautiful catches throughout camp so far. I don't know if you guys saw the one-handed grab from the end zone. That was fantastic. He's done a really great job so far. The only downside to Wan'Dale is that today in practice, him and Burns collided on a play towards the end of practice, and they both were down for a minute. They ended up being able to get up and walk on their own. They were not limping. No one was like holding an arm or a leg or anything like that. But they both walked off the field and did not come back for the rest of the practice. So everyone hoped that it was not anything serious. My best guess, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. From what I saw, I felt like it was one of two things, that they got the wind knocked out of them because they both kind of laid there for a minute and took a minute to actually get back up. Or that it could have been a concussion. And neither of them were wearing the Guardian caps. Obviously, they had helmets on, but I just wish that everyone would wear the goddamn Guardian cap throughout camp. Like, we don't need anyone getting concussions. So let's just all hope that it's nothing serious. The Giants have off tomorrow. They will be back at it on Sunday, and I'm sure we'll get an update from Dable on both of them then. The pads also come on Monday. So that is something that to keep your eyes peeled. I'll be back at camp on Monday, and I can't wait to see that in person. So one more injury, and then we'll get back to the offense. This is also partially offensive related, is Jalen Hyatt. Not necessarily an injury, but he did not practice today because Dable said he had some cramping, a little bit of tightness in his leg. So they just held him out. So now he's going to have 2 off days, which is great. And we'll see if he's back on the field on Sunday. If not, hopefully Monday. Jalen Hyatt was having a really nice camp. I would like to see him continue on that and prove that he deserves the wide receiver 4 spot on this roster. So outside of that, let's continue on with the wide receivers for a minute. 2 guys that I think are of note. One of them, Amir Smith-Marset, who is obviously the special teamer, but he also has been pretty electric when he's gotten the ball in his hands. He got quite a few reps with the 2s and 3s today and looked pretty good. He got a couple snaps with the 1s with Russell Wilson. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he is fast. He's shifty. He can absolutely be explosive on this field. So I really like the idea of him being the 5th wide receiver. I think that at this point, there's probably a 95, if not 99% chance that he takes up that 5th roster spot. So I would say keep your eyes on him. He's number 87. If you're going to camp, definitely keep your eyes peeled. He's been fun to watch. And another one I think is probably Beau Collins. He had a really, really nice day today. I don't believe he got any snaps with the 1s, but he made some really nice catches from Jaxson Dart and from Jameis Winston. So He's a guy to keep your eyes peeled on. That sixth wide receiver roster spot is pretty much open right now. Zach Pascal has gotten some reps with the ones. I saw him make a catch or two. Nothing super of note, but he's made plays when he got the ball in his hands, which is obviously important. And then outside of that, a guy that I really like, Juice Wells. I saw him mostly with the threes today. He made some nice catches. But I would say out of that kind of group of wide receiver who's fighting for that sixth roster spot, I feel like Beau Collins really had the best day. Zach Pascal, I think, is going to be in the mix. And Montreal Washington could be another one. He got some snaps with the twos and threes. I believe I saw him even in with the ones towards the end of practice today. And he's also been utilized on special teams. So definitely a guy to watch. Let's talk about the running backs because all of them are very fun to watch, and they have been utilized in every way, shape, and form you can imagine. I have seen handoffs. I have seen deep throws down the field. I have seen slants. I have seen little 5-yard throws. I have seen underhand throws. I have seen every way, shape, and form that you can utilize a running back. That is what we have seen from them. And, all of the running backs talked about this is how they're all really versatile and they want to be used in different ways. And I think that we're finally going to see that from them this year. The last play of practice today was a beautiful, I think it was maybe a 15-yard throw from Jaxson Dart to Cameron Scadaboo in the back corner of the end zone. Perfect catch, both feet in, touchdown. Magnificent. This is the stuff that I want to see from the running backs. It's just really fun. Like Tyrone Tracy has been used as a pass catcher. He's been used as a running back, getting handoffs. I've seen it from Turbo, and Turbo's really fun to watch because he has that super quick speed element to have to him that a lot of other running backs don't have. He ran a 4.40. The guy is super fast, called Turbo for a reason. And even Devin Singletary also made some really nice plays today in with the ones and all over the place. What I will say today, the one thing that I noticed, I think the most in practice was that everyone, except for the quarterbacks, were getting snaps with every single different level of play. So I saw Abdul Carter in with the ones. I also saw him in with the threes. I saw Kayvon Thibodeau in with the fours. I saw Darius Alexander in with the ones. He's finally making his way up there. I saw Jaxson Dart, who mostly got reps with the twos. He also got some reps with the threes. Tommy DeVito was mostly with the fours, Winston mostly with the threes. So it wasn't really those guys who were rotating, but I saw like Montreal Washington and Jordan Bly and what's his name? Rushawn Baker getting snaps with the twos and ones. So the rotation was really heavy in literally every position. Like I think Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, and Russell Wilson, and like maybe Darius Slayton and Neighbors were the only players who were not rotated in all different spots throughout the day in the 7-on-7s and 11-on-11. So that was very interesting. Hard to keep up with, but interesting. I even saw Elijah Chapman in with the one. So we'll get to that when we talk about the defense, but I want to continue on with the offense because I know everyone wants to hear about Jaxson Dart. So let's go ahead and move on to the quarterbacks. So like I said, both of them, or I talked about this on Instagram, both of them have kind of been hit or miss. Like they've had some really great throws and then they've also had some not so great throws. I would say Russell Wilson has been more consistent, obviously the most consistent out of all of them. His deep throws to neighbors have been absolutely a thing of beauty and so beautiful to watch. He also has thrown some really nice balls to Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, you name it. Everyone who's been in that rotation, they've probably gotten their hands on a ball at some point. Theo Johnson has been very heavily involved. Russell Wilson has thrown him some really nice balls. Daniel Bellinger has been in with the ones. Greg Dulcich has gotten his rotations. I haven't really seen Fedoni much with the ones. He's been more of like threes and fours, but every once in a while, he's thrown in with the twos. But Russell Wilson has done a nice job of being accurate, throwing the ball on time, and getting the ball to the place where it needs to go. So today was a little frustrating, not because of him, because of John Michael Schmitz, who had three different snaps that went over Russell's head. And on 2 out of the 3 times, Russell did a nice job of getting the ball and either being able to make a play or throw it away. On the 3rd time, he probably would have gotten sacked. But, stuff like that I don't want to see from John Michael Schmitz. Look, it's camp. Everyone's making mistakes. It is what it is. I think the heat got to them a little bit today, but I was just like, dude, one is one thing. 3 of them in one practice is not okay. But Russell Wilson did a good job of maintaining a calm level of composure when shit was hitting the fan around him. With the offensive line, it's been kind of hard to tell, right? Like they're not fully tackling or anything like that. They start tackling on Monday when the pads come on. James Hudson has been getting basically every single rep with the ones. I will say there hasn't really been a big rotation with the offensive line with the ones. It's been starting five from left to right. It's been um, James Hudson, John Runyon, John Michael Schmitz, Greg Van Roten, and Jermaine Illuminor. Now, Evan Neal, I saw mostly working at left guard today. He was in with the twos and in with the threes, but more so left guard than the rotation that he was doing yesterday, which was left guard and right guard. So I'm curious to see how that develops throughout practice. I will say he's looked okay. I've seen him have some good reps and I've seen him have some not so good reps. I do think he probably feels more comfortable at guard, so I think that's been good for him. But overall, like with the offense, I feel like Russell has done a nice job. I don't expect any of these players to be perfect right now, especially when they're learning a new offense and everything like that. But I do think that Russell has a really good command of this offense and team. I haven't really seen penalties from the offense, and it seems like, he's got things under control. So, I just want to see him be a little bit more consistent, but I don't expect any quarterback to have perfect throws every single time. So it is what it is. That's going to happen in the regular season too. But I will say from what I've seen, I'm happy with Russell Wilson. I think he's done a nice job. And like I said, I just want to see him be a little more consistent as the practices go on. Let's talk about Jaxson Dart, because a lot of questions about Jaxson Dart. If I hear anyone call him a bust after his first throw being a pick six, just bow out of football. Just do it. This is not for you, okay? Because that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, aside from the fact that we should have drafted Shedeur Sanders instead of Dart because Sanders didn't throw a pick six in practice. Let me remind you that 30 other teams passed on Sanders 5 times. 5 times. The Browns drafted 6 other players before they drafted him. So we're not doing that, okay? We're not doing it. You sound like an idiot. Stop it. Jaxson Dart has been hit or miss. He's a rookie quarterback who's made some beautiful throws, and then he's also made some not so beautiful throws. Guess what? It's day 3 of training camp. If you expected anything other than that, that's a you problem, because he's a rookie, number 1. Number 2, he's not the starter. Number 3, he's learning one of the hardest offenses in the NFL. Number 4, he's going to throw interceptions. You know who else threw an interception? Hall of Famer and MVP superstar Aaron Rodgers also threw an interception in practice. It's not that big of a deal, okay? So you know what he didn't do since then is throw pick sixes. So what we want to see from Dart is that he's improving. Dart also said afterwards, for those of you who missed this, that he saw Nick Jones there. He saw him, but he wanted to test it and see if he could make the throw and get it through those really tight windows in the NFL. And guess what? He learned the hard way that that's not going to work. And you know what he hasn't done? That again. So there's been some good pass breakups from the defense. He has been accurate with some of his throws. He has been getting through his reads, getting through the reads from what I saw, because that was something that I tried to focus on today, was a little bit hit or miss. The throw to Scattaboo at the end of the day, perfect. Made it through all 3 of his reads. Scattaboo was open, planted his feet, and made a perfect throw. Then I saw a couple times when the pocket was collapsing. This was when he was in with the threes, and Joshua Zudo was one of his tackles. So keep that in mind, where he wasn't making it through all of the reads. And I think that's another thing that he also has to learn, is that the pace of play in the NFL is significantly faster than that of college. And he's going to have to learn that he has to get through his reads a lot quicker than he did in college. It's a concern that I had. It's a concern that a lot of us had. But I am not going to come out here and say, oh, well, he couldn't do it in one day of practice, so he's never going to be able to do it. That's insane, okay? Let's take it one day at a time here before we crucify him and say that he's a bust. He's not Daniel Jones, okay? Deep breaths, deep breaths. Because like I said, he also has made some really beautiful throws. Speaking of, I'm going to show you the one to Jalen Hyatt right now. For those of you who haven't seen it, I was lucky enough to get this when I was at practice yesterday and record it. Absolute perfect. All around. Look at this, okay? Timing of the throw, perfect. Jalen Hyatt makes a great grab right in probably what would have been the corner of the end zone. 2 feet in. Let's watch it one more time so everyone can stop with their hatred of Jaxson Dart that he can't throw the ball because he threw 1 interception. He threw an interception on day 1. That was his first throw. This was his first throw on day 2. And this was in with the twos, I believe. Trey Hawkins also, we'll talk about him when we get to the defense, but he's been involved a lot. All right, let's move over to Neighbors. I want to show you guys an awesome touchdown from today, because it's just, this is the stuff that as a Giants fan should make everyone really excited. And that's what's been frustrating to me about this whole conversation around Jaxson Dart is, number one, can we stop crucifying him? But number two, there's been so much great stuff that's been going on at camp. And all I hear from people is bitching and moaning about Jaxson Dart. Why don't we talk about Malik Neighbors, our superstar Malik Neighbors, who had 1,200 yards last year with 4 different quarterbacks. And now he's got Russell Wilson, who might have maybe been sacked there by Abdul Carter, who's just burning people in coverage. And Paulson Adebo has been doing a nice job of keeping up with Neighbors. But the reality is we all know that no one is beating Malik Neighbors. There's no corner in the NFL who's matching up against him. He's just an absolute freak. Look at this beautiful dime in the bucket, hits the wide receiver in stride so he can run straight in for the touchdown. This is what we should be excited about moving forward. This is like, there's a lot of good stuff that came out of practice, okay? Not just Jaxson Dart throwing a pick six, because guess what? He also threw a touchdown to Jalen Hyatt. So let's move along to the defense now, because again, there's a lot of good things to talk about with the defense. I'm not going to go on and on about Abdul Carter because I literally could talk about him all night, because everything that I've seen from him is just, I just am like salivating. And I think that as Giants fans, like I think he's going to be better than advertised. Like everything I've seen from him, I'm like salivating. It's just, I'm just going to show you the spin move that I think I talked about earlier. I don't even know, guys. It's been a long couple days so far, but oh, sorry, that's the Neighbors clip. Hold, please. We're going to go back to the Carter one. I want you guys to see. Oh, there's Neil in with the ones, by the way. Look at Carter right here. Look at this. Look at him. So fast against Jermaine Illuminor. Just unbelievable. Look at this again. Okay. 51 right here. Look at him. He's also done that a million times so far. And this is just one that I happened to get in the clip when I was at camp today. But that is just like a little piece of what we're going to see from Abdul Carter. And I am so excited about him. So the other thing I want to talk about is I've been asked a little bit too is, have you seen all 3 edge rushers on the field at once? And as a matter of fact, I have. Now, what I will say is I did not see them on the field today. I saw them, this was yesterday when I saw them on the field to all 3 of them together, plus 3 safeties, Dane Belton being the third one. So I think what I hope, before I show you guys this real quick, is that this is an inkling as to what Shane Bowen's defense is going to be. And it's going to be versatile. And we're going to see all 3 of them on the field at once. And then we're not going to see them all on the field at once. Sometimes we're going to see 3 safeties. Sometimes we're not. So I hope that this is what we'll see from his defense. Now, the one thing I want to say about this play too. So this was in with the ones. You have all 3 edge rushers, Burns, Kayvon, Carter, and then you've got 3 safeties, Belton being the third. So Abdul Carter, number 51, right here, is lined up next to Burns, and then Kayvon is on the other side. Carter, I think, would have drawn a flag there. It's between him and what's his name? Hudson. I don't know. I felt like it was hard to tell in the video. I think they ended up saying that it was on Carter and it was his fault. But either way, it was a clip that I was able to get of the 3 of them on the field at once, because I'm not exaggerating when I tell you about the rotation, that every single play, it's different. They're swapping 100 guys in and out. So it's been kind of hard to keep up with it. But I really think that we are going to see a lot of the 3 of them on the field at once. And, Bowen said we're going to get the best 11 players out there. So I like the rotation that they're doing, and it's great to always just kind of see that mix. So Chauncey Golston has done a nice job. He's been in with the 1s, 2s, and 3s. He's been all over the mix, but I think we're going to see a lot more of him moving forward. Dexter Lawrence, I mean, there's nothing we have to talk about with Dexter Lawrence. What I want to talk about with the defensive line is that Roy Robertson-Harris has actually been getting the bulk of the snaps with the ones next to Dexter Lawrence instead of Nacho. So I think that's interesting, and I'm curious to see how that develops, because even though they are really doing this heavy rotation, when that starting defense goes out there, it's Roy Robertson-Harris and it's Dexter Lawrence, and it's any one of those 3 edge rushers. I feel like I see Burns and Kayvon probably the most, but I am starting to see Abdul Carter really be rotated in there. So I think that's been a big thing to watch. And like I said, I even saw Kayvon in with the fours today, and I saw Abdul with the twos and threes. But the bulk of the snaps is really that rotation heavy with the edge rusher, but it's Roy Robertson, Harris, and Dexter Lawrence. I did see guys like Elijah Chapman, and I think his first name is also Elijah Garcia, Darius Alexander. All of these guys have been rotated in at that defensive line position. So that's been a really heavy mix. I've seen DJ Davidson out there. I've seen Jordan Riley. So there's really been a heavy mix of like literally every single defensive lineman that's on our roster has been getting snaps, which is great. The guys who I've seen out there the most are Roy Robertson Harris, Nacho, and Chauncey Golston. And then I've also started to see a bit more of Darius Alexander. Now, Alexander was dealing with some sort of injury during OTAs, so I believe that they're slowly ramping him up. So I'm curious to see how that develops. How much of Darius Alexander are we going to see as training camp and preseason continues? That's going to be something to watch. Let's talk about the corners because that has also been a heavy rotation. On Wednesday, it was Banks starting out, but there was a lot of rotation with Flott. Yesterday, I think it was more Flott than it was Banks. And then today, when they immediately started with the 7-on-7s, it was Flott who got the starting role, but then Banks came in. Banks had a really nice day on Wednesday. He had a really nice pass breakup today. I like that they are kind of saying like, hey, prove it. Prove you deserve the starting role, because you got Cordell Flott here who's right behind you and who we're going to give reps and who doesn't have an attitude problem and who doesn't have an effort problem. We're going to give him a lot of reps. So I like that. I think it's really important to foster a level of competition in the locker room. Like, I want these guys to be like, oh, if I don't give it my all this rep, then the UDFA or the guy behind me is going to come in and maybe, take that away from me. So I think there are a lot of spots that are set in stone. I think ultimately Banks is going to be the CB2 opposite of Debo. No one is rotating with a Debo for cornerback one. But I like that they're fostering the competition there. And I like that they're kind of saying to Banks, like, hey, buddy, you got someone over your shoulder. Okay. You're not allowed to be lazy. You want to be lazy. You're not going to be a football player, a starter on this team. So I like it. But I will say that Banks has done a really nice job. He's had some good pass breakups. He had a good one against Neighbors on yesterday, I think. He also had another one today that was really nice. I can't remember if it was on Neighbors or Slayton, but it was this close to being an interception. I'm like, bro, turn your head around. You're literally right there. Most frustrating part of Deontay Banks' game, because he keeps up stride for stride. Him and Paulson and Debo have done a nice job of keeping up with Neighbors. And for Banks, like, that's a massive compliment. He just doesn't ever turn his head around, but he's made some nice pass breakups. So, sometimes with Banks, I'm like, I'll take what I can get. Right. But he's done a nice job. And I really think that the attitude is there. And I was listening to one of the players, Dexter Lawrence, I think it was, in one of his media sessions, saying that there are a lot of guys that have become more vocal in the locker room, and he really appreciates that. And he named Banks and Flott as two of them who have become more vocal. So I love it. I love it. Whatever it takes, I don't care. Just act like you give a shit, because the fans give a shit. So I want to know that you do. So I really like that. And I think it's been nice to hear that guys are stepping up. And I think Banks has really had a major attitude adjustment this offseason into this year. So let's hope it continues. Okay, let's a little more on the cornerbacks. Nick Jones has been unbelievable. A corner who seemingly came out of nowhere. He's number 31. If you guys are at practice, keep an eye on him. Wednesday, he's the one who got the pick 6 on Jaxson Dart. Yesterday, he had I think it was another interception. And then today he would have had a sack. Maybe yesterday he would have had a sack too. He's just done a really nice job. And I think that he is going to force his way into this roster. He's a slot corner, which is great. We don't have a backup for Drew Phillips. And I just think that even with the 2s, he went from getting reps with the 3s to the 2s, consistently with the 2s again today. And every rep that he's got, he's made himself noticeable on the field. I think he's going to be like the David Sills version of training camp. I just hope that it translates into the NFL. And he has experience in the league. He's been in the league for a while. I think I saw he came from the Chiefs. I will confirm that because I'm not 100% sure. But he's done a really nice job. And like I said, because we don't have a backup slot corner, I really appreciate anyone who's putting in the time and effort to try and get that roster spot. And I think he's going to force the Giants' hand into doing it. So number 31, if you're going to camp, keep an eye out for him because he's done a nice job so far. And I'd like to see him continue on that. Outside of the backup corners, I mean, I haven't really seen anyone that I think has been as exciting to watch, honestly, as Nick Jones. He's done a really nice job. Let's talk about the safeties because Nubin had a fantastic day today. He had multiple pass breakups, would have had an interception. He's done a really, really nice job. And I know so many of us love Nubin. He had a great job last year. And I hope that he continues into that this year. And I feel like we're starting to get to that point where we're seeing a little bit of him having that ball hawk reputation that the Giants talked about so extensively as to one of the reasons why they drafted him. So I'm really excited to see that continue on with Nubin. The pass breakups are the beginning. Hopefully they turn to interceptions. Something that just popped in my head we need to talk about real quick back with the corners. Drew Phillips had an interception yesterday and came close to having a second one today. And Trey Hawkins has done a nice job as well. He went from getting reps with the 3s and worked his way in with the 2s. So Trey Hawkins could make this roster again. Back to the safeties. Javon Holland done a really nice job. I don't have any complaints about him. Him and Bobby O were doing some work on the side on Wednesday. And I think, I don't know if part of it is like injury related or whatnot, but they've been involved in all the team drills. They are out there with the starters. I don't really have a lot to say about the linebackers because they're not tackling. So, Darius Muasau has been getting some reps with the ones, but it's been Micah McFadden and Bobby O consistently as the starters. And then the starting safeties are Holland and Nubin, and then Belton has been in the rotation with the 3rd spot. I've seen a little bit of Makari Page. I haven't seen a ton of him. I feel like there hasn't been many other safeties who have really stood out. The Giants signed Kevon Wallace, who's also a veteran. He's been involved a little bit, but he hasn't really forced his way into reps with 1s or the 2s at all. Raheem Lane has done a nice job. He's been in with the 2s quite a bit as well. So, like I said, just heavy on the rotations, and I'm curious to see how camp evolves, how the rotation dwindles. And they're going to have to start making cuts soon. So it's going to be very interesting. Let's briefly touch on special teams, and then I will wrap this up because it went a little bit longer than I hoped. Okay, special teams. Graham Gano looks great. Looks like normal Graham Gano. Kicking field goals. Jamie Gillen has done a really nice job out there too. He's punting, doing his thing. He is healthy, ready to go. Same thing with Graham Gano. Jamie Gillen went from 6 to 12. He switched his number to 12, which leads me to believe that Jaxson Dart is sticking with the number 6. If you're dying to buy a Jaxson Dart jersey, I hope that you're cool with number 6 because it sounds like that's what he's keeping, at least for this year. And then the only thing I saw in special teams, 2 things. Number 1, Jalen Hyatt was working as a returner on Wednesday, which I thought was very, very interesting because it was kind of the usual suspects, right? Bryce Ford-Wheaton, Amir Smith-Marset, Turbo, Montreal Washington. Those are like the main special teamers. But I saw Jalen Hyatt back there, which I thought was interesting and actually not a bad idea for him because I think his speed, as long as he can hold on to the ball, his speed is a great capability to have for someone who's a punter kickoff returner. So I like that. And then the second thing was today I saw Javon Holland back there and I did not like that, not one bit, because I just get frustrated with Dable. I'm like, do you ever learn your lesson? And look, it's camp, so it probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. He also dropped the ball, which I was like, good, get the hell out of there. Okay. That's not where you belong. So as long as that does not become a pattern, I just thought it was interesting that he was out there. So we'll see. I'll be back at practice on Monday. This is what I'm going to do next week with the pod because practice is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. They have an off day Wednesday, back to practice Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I believe they have an off day Sunday. And then the last practice is Monday, August 4th, which I will be at until the Jets practice, which is August 13th. So I'm going to do a podcast either Tuesday or Wednesday where I recap Sunday, Monday, Tuesday practices. I'll be at the Monday and Tuesday practices when the pads come on. I cannot wait. And then Friday afternoon, I will recap Thursday, Friday's practice. And then the following week, I'll recap the weekend's practices and we will go from there. But guys, Giants football is here. I'm so excited. It's exciting to be back. Love getting to see these guys in person and, see the highs and lows. It's camp. It is what it is. But, I see Neighbors and I see Dexter and I just get a little optimistic. So we'll see how things go, but make sure you subscribe. Please rate and review the podcast if you like it. Share it with your friends because there's a lot more coming your way. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week.